In the Bratva, you're not born into the family. You earn your way in, and you bleed your way out. They say the first time you kill a man, you never forget. I remember the smell before I remember the face. Burnt rubber, cold vodka, gasoline, and blood god. So much blood. Not like the movies. Real blood is thicker. It sticks in your nose and clings to your boots. You can't wash it out. No matter how many showers you take or how much bleach you pour, it stays with you, just like the Bratva. I was 19 when I joined them. Moscow winter had no mercy, and neither did life in the outer districts. My father died drunk and frozen in a tram stop. My mother sold herself to buy me food. The only thing I ever loved was a pair of brass knuckles and the feel of fire in my fists. I was a nobody until Viktor Petrov found me. They called him dead, the old man, not because he was elderly, but because he was ruthless enough to survive long enough to become legend. He ran the Novokuznetskaya crew, one of the most brutal in Moscow, and he ran it like Stalin ran a war, with iron fists and no room for mistakes. My initiation was not a ritual. It was a test of loyalty, pain, and silence. They tied up a man in a cold garage in Biryovo. "He's a rat," said Victor. "You want to join us? Then show us you're not." The man looked at me, eyes begging, mouth gagged, shirt soaked in sweat and piss. I didn't know his name. I didn't ask. I just took the pipe they handed me and swung. 3 hits cracked his skull. The 4th made his eye pop. They made me finish the job with a knife. I puked afterward. Cried, too. Not in front of them, never in front of them. I waited until I was alone in my tenement stairwell, curled up beside a radiator that never worked. But after that, I was one of them. I had earned my ink. The stars on my knees meant I bowed to no one. The crosses on my chest, etched by needle and ash, meant I had spilled blood for the family. And from that moment on, I wasn't a stray dog anymore. Was a wolf in a pack that didn't fear death. We dealt in everything: arms, girls, cars, organs, data. The world was a marketplace, and we were the merchants of pain. And America was the gold mine. Victor sent me to Brighton Beach with Mikhail, a thick-necked bastard who chewed sunflower seeds like a wood chipper. "We need muscle over there," he said, "and someone who speaks English without sounding like a fucking tourist." The irony: I learned English watching Schwarzenegger films in a Soviet-era basement with bootleg tapes. My favorite was Commando. I thought America would be like that: big muscles, bigger guns, and explosions. I was half right. Brighton Beach was like a piece of Russia broke off and floated across the ocean. Little Odessa, they called it. Cyrillic signs everywhere. Babushkas selling pierogi. Men in Adidas tracksuits carrying Glock 17s like cell phones. It was home, and it was hell. We ran protection rackets on the boardwalk. Took a slice from nightclubs on Coney Island. Trafficked stolen orders straight off the ports in Jersey. And behind it all, we smiled. Smiled at the cops. Smiled at the feds. Smiled at the priests who blessed our wives while we buried bodies in construction sites out on Staten Island. But the Bratva doesn't survive by staying still. We evolve, we infect, and that's how I met Alexei Ivanov. He looked like a banker, clean-shaven, suits tailored in Milan, teeth bleached like an actor, but he had the soul of a wolf and the mind of a mathematician. Alexei wasn't a thug. He was a strategist. He saw patterns in chaos, and he made us richer than we'd ever imagined. He started with cybercrime phishing scams, carding rings, ransomware. Then he moved into crypto laundering, fake shell companies, digital arms deals. We were making millions a week, and no one could touch us. Until he got greedy. We were supposed to stay under the radar. No flashy hits, no bodies on the news. But Alexei got sloppy. He ordered a hit on a Ukrainian crew that had moved into our territory for bodies in a butcher shop. One of them, a US citizen. The FBI smelled blood. Victor called me from Moscow. "Clean this," he said, "or I'll clean you." I didn't flinch. That's the thing about being Bratva. You learn early that love means loyalty, and loyalty means doing the unthinkable when asked. So I started watching Alexei, not openly, just shadows, patterns, habits, and what I found chilled me to the bone. He wasn't just betraying us to make more money. He was talking to the Americans. There's a word we use, suka. It means bitch, but in prison terms, it means worse. It means traitor. It means dead man walking. I still remember the night I confronted him. It was raining, always is in stories like these, right? But this was real. Rain hit the rooftop like broken glass. We were above a strip club we owned on Neptune Avenue. "Alone, you sold us out," I said. He didn't deny it, just looked at me, tired. "They offered me a deal. Witness protection, a new life. You already had a life." He smiled. "I wanted one with a future." I shot him through the eye. One bullet, clean. I wiped the gun and walked out while his blood pooled around the Hermes shoes he loved so much. That was 2 years ago. Now I sit in a safe house in Baltimore, writing this with fingers that still tremble. Because the Bratva never forgets, and I've done the unthinkable. I didn't just kill a traitor. I became one. In this life, you don't run from ghosts. You make more of them. After I killed Alexei, I thought things would calm down. That Victor would thank me, maybe even pull me back to Moscow for a while. But silence is never safety in our world. Silence is the click before the gunshot. The pause before the police lights wash you in red and blue. Silence is suspicion. A week after the hit, I was still in Brighton, still breathing, still waiting. And then I got the text. Ocean View, 2 a.m., alone. It was from Victor's second in command, Yuri, a man with dead eyes and a heart made of sharpened glass. If Victor was the soul of our Bratva, Yuri was the executioner. He didn't text often. When he did, it meant something, either your reward or your grave. I went armed. Not obviously, just a Makarov tucked behind my waistband, one extra mag, and a switchblade in my boot. Not that it would matter if Yuri wanted me gone. He'd send 6 men with suppressors, and I'd be another rumor whispered behind shots of vodka. The Ocean View was a forgotten Soviet-era bathhouse we owned front for human trafficking and organ harvesting. But tonight, it was empty. Just the hum of broken neon lights, flickering like dying memories. Yuri stood there alone in his long grey coat, smoking something that smelled like pine and gunpowder. "You did good," he said without turning. "But there's a problem." Of course there is, I thought. There's always a problem. He turned to face me. "Alexei had a failsafe. Before you killed him, he sent out data. Insurance. What kind of data?" He pulled a flash drive from his coat, tossed it to me. "Watch it." I did, later, in my apartment, with every blind shut and my Glock on the table. The video started with Alexei's face, calm, professional, like he was doing a TED talk on betrayal. "This is for whoever finds this. If I'm dead, then someone in the Bratva killed me. Probably for what I'm about to show you." The next 10 minutes were a montage of hell. Bank accounts, names, shipments, dates, locations. Not just of rival crews of us. Every major Bratva operation in North America mapped out like a fucking corporate audit. Money laundering through Canadian banks, organ shipments mislabeled as medical supplies, judges on payroll, cops in our pockets. If this got out, we were dead. Not just arrested, destroyed. Rico would eat us alive. The file ended with Alexei's final words. You want to survive? Burn the Bratva before they burn you. I couldn't sleep that night. Couldn't eat. I stared at my phone for hours. Thought about deleting the file, smashing the drive, vanishing into the night. But there's no escape. Not when you're marked. Not when the wolves know your scent. The next morning, two things happened that changed everything. First, the flash drive disappeared. I kept it in a hidden floorboard under my couch. When I checked, it was gone. No signs of break-in, no prints, just gone. Second, the body of a low-level hacker named Dmitry Mouse Pavlenko turned up in a dumpster in Queens. Throat slit, eyes gouged. I knew Mouse. He was one of Alexei's tools, a kid who could crash servers or fake passports in under 10 minutes. And now he was pulp. Someone was cleaning house. I went to the one man I knew who might have answers. Lev, the fixer. Lev was older than Sin, ran a pawn shop that never closed, and had more information than the FBI. He didn't trust me, but I came with a bottle of Georgian brandy and a .38 snub-nosed revolver wrapped in a red velvet cloth. He liked gifts. He lit a cigar that smelled like scorched tires and squinted at me. You killed Alexei. I said nothing. He smirked. Good. I never liked that weasel. But now you have a bigger problem. Who? Lev tapped his fingers on the counter like he was playing piano. Her name is Anastasia Markova, FSB, before she vanished. Now she's freelance, mercenary, hacker, assassin, and guess what? She was Alexei's lover. I blinked. No one knew. Exactly, he grinned. But she knew everything about him, including his back doors, including that drive. I leaned in, she took it. Lev nodded slowly, and now she's selling it. To who, I don't know. But when the Bratva finds out she has it, they'll burn New York to the ground. I felt ice climb my spine. You want to live, he said, handing me a black envelope. You need to find her before they do. The address inside led to an abandoned data center in Jersey. 10 miles of broken glass and hollow buildings. Ghosts of the dot-com bubble. I went in with nothing but a .45 and a prayer. No backup, no plan. And that's when I saw her, Anastasia. Red hair, black eyes. Face like a porcelain doll sharpened at the edges. She stood over a laptop surrounded by servers, the glow of data streaming across her skin like code-made flesh. She didn't flinch when I pointed the gun at her. I knew you'd come, she said. Her voice was cold silk. You were always his loyal dog. I'm nobody's dog. No, she smirked. Then why are you still breathing? She typed something, and the screens lit up. Maps, files, photos. Alexei didn't just expose the Bratva, she said. He exposed the entire ecosystem. FSB, CIA, triads, cartels, everyone. This drive isn't just a bomb, it's Armageddon. I felt my blood drain. Why? She smiled. Because he wanted to watch the world burn. And now, so do I. Before I could react, the lights went out. Gunfire. Glass exploded. Shouts in Russian. Bratva had found us. I fired blind, dragging her down behind a server rack. One of the bullets hit my shoulder. White heat, numb fingers. I don't remember much after that. Just blood, screams, and fire. When I woke up, I was in a hospital in Philadelphia, bandaged, alone, no ID, no records. Just a burner phone beside the bed with one message. They know, run. Anastasia was gone. The drive was gone. And now the Bratva thought I was part of it. They were coming, and this time they wouldn't miss. When the Bratva wants you dead, they don't send warnings. They send men. I left the hospital that night with nothing but my boots, a stitched up shoulder, and a phone I didn't trust. Snow was falling like ash, quiet and cruel. I walked 3 miles in the cold until I found a bus station. No cameras, no names, just movement. I bought a one-way ticket to Pittsburgh under the name Ivan Markov. Fake ID, burned fingerprints. Why Pittsburgh? Because it was where no one looked for ghosts. It was a city of rust and shadows. The kind of place where people minded their own business and the cops were still 5 years behind on paperwork. I needed a hole to crawl into, a place to think. The Bratva believed I had helped Anastasia escape. They thought I had the drive, which meant I was a walking target. I rented a room in a decaying motel off Mickey's Rocks. Stains on the walls, cockroaches in the sink, heater that coughed more than it breathed. Perfect. I paid cash, no name. Then I started hunting, not for Anastasia, for answers. Lev had said the drive was more than Bratva intel. It was a map of global corruption. That meant it had value, and value meant bidders. I went to the only person I knew who could track information like this, Mina. She was an ex-NSA analyst turned darknet broker, a hacker queen who lived in an abandoned library with a dozen cats and a paranoia that bordered on prophecy. I met her during a weapons deal in 2018. She was the one who told me never to trust the Ukrainian consulate. She was right. Getting to her wasn't easy. You don't call Mina. You leave messages in dead servers, encoded through Morse patterns in GIF files, dropped into obscure Russian cooking forums. If she liked you, she answered in 72 hours. If not, you were already hacked, exposed, and flagged to Interpol. She replied in 20. Come alone, no phones, bring whiskey. Her lair was a cathedral of broken tech. CRT monitors stacked like altars, wires like vines, cat hair in the air like static. She wore goggles that blinked green and a hoodie that said, I root for no one. When she saw me, she frowned. Jesus, you look like you pissed off God. Close, I said. The Bratva, she winced, worse. I handed her a drive, not the main one, but a copy I had made from a fragment left on my laptop before it was wiped. She scanned it. Holy shit, she whispered. This isn't just Bratva. This is everything. Langley, Beijing, Tel Aviv. I'm seeing contractors from Black Lake. Offshore accounts linked to Fort Meade. This is the file. Someone's trying to sell it. Not someone, she said. Multiple, and not just sell. Auction. She turned her monitor. It was a site on the dark web, live countdown, encrypted chat, digital war zone. Bidders included a Saudi intelligence node, a North Korean deepnet broker, an unknown party with a Vatican IP, and one that made my blood freeze. The dead one. Only one man used that name in the Bratva. Sergei Volkov, ex-Spetsnaz, torturer, enforcer. He had no fingerprints, no official record, just scars and whispers. If he was bidding, it meant the Bratva wanted the file back at any cost, even if it meant burning down cities to do it. I looked at Mina. Can you find Anastasia? She cracked her knuckles. I can try, but if I do, you better be ready to choose. Choose, she leaned in, between killing her or joining her. The next night, someone broke into the motel. They slit the throat of the guy in the room next to mine by mistake. A message. They were close. I packed and left before sunrise. Mina sent me an address. Detroit, of course. Where else would a digital mercenary go to hide? A city abandoned by hope, now crawling with tech scavengers and warlords in business suits. It was a feeding ground for broken systems, just like her. I drove straight through Ohio, heart pounding every time a black SUV pulled behind me. When I got to the address, an abandoned shipping yard, I found signs of life. A laptop still warm. Coffee, a scent of cheap perfume, but no Anastasia. Only a phone ringing. I answered. "I told you to stop chasing me," she said. "You have no idea what you started." "No, Alexei started it. I'm just trying to finish it before the world does. I need that drive. I'm not the enemy." "Then why are people dying?" She paused. "Because they deserve to." Click, then silence. I stood in that yard for a long time, surrounded by shipping containers full of nothing but rust and memory. When I turned to leave, I saw a man watching me from the shadows. Tall, black coat, gloves, no expression. I reached for my gun, too slow. The world went black. I woke up in a warehouse, tied to a chair, blood in my mouth, a broken rib, maybe two. Across from me sat Volkov. His eyes were pale blue, empty. He stared like a machine, scanning for weaknesses. "Where's the drive?" he said. "I don't have it." He nodded. Broke my pinky with a hammer. "Try again." I laughed through the pain. "Go fuck yourself." He smiled, broke another. Then he leaned close. "You were loyal. Victor believed in you. But now you stink of betrayal." "I didn't betray anyone." He showed me a photo, me and Anastasia, from a rooftop camera. Grainy but clear. Looks like collaboration. She's trying to sell it. I'm trying to stop her. Too late. Bidding ends in 24 hours. Then he stood. "I'm going to kill you, slowly. Not because I enjoy it, though I do, but because it sends a message. You don't leave the Bratva. You die screaming for it." He raised the hammer again. But he never got the chance. The wall behind him exploded. Flashbangs, shouts, gunfire, and through the smoke, Anastasia, wearing body armor, holding an M4. "Get up," she screamed. She shot Volkov in the knee, dragged me out. Blood everywhere. Sirens in the distance. She drove like a demon, one hand on the wheel, the other wiping blood from my face. "You saved me," I said. "Don't get sentimental," she snapped. "I need you alive." "For what?" She looked at me, eyes burning. "To help me end this." The deeper I went, the more I understood. This was never about loyalty. It was about survival, and survival doesn't have a flag. The safe house was buried beneath a closed-down funeral home outside Toledo. Anastasia led me through rows of caskets and into the cold, metallic gut of the place, all stainless steel and iodine and death. The walls were soundproofed. The cameras were analog. No internet, no signals, just concrete and paranoia. She stitched my ribs without anesthesia, said it would hurt less if I didn't scream. She was wrong. As I lay on the gurney, breathing through the pain, she finally told me everything. Alexei never wanted to destroy the Bratva. He wanted to replace it. The drive was only the first piece of a larger game. He had created something called Kovcheg, the Ark, a secure black box server that stored all the intel, all the leverage, all the dirty deals of every major syndicate he'd ever worked with, including our own. It was more than blackmail, it was power. And now that he was dead, Anastasia was the only one who could unlock it. But she wasn't alone. "There's a third player," she said, lighting a cigarette with shaking hands. "Someone's been manipulating this auction, killing off buyers, changing the rules." She looked at me, her voice flat. "Victor," I laughed, then winced from the pain. No, he'd never. He would. He has. He funded Alexei's operation. But when Alexei went rogue, Victor made a deal with the Americans, a quiet betrayal, in exchange for immunity and territory in Miami. I stared at her. "You're lying. I wish I was," she whispered. I didn't sleep that night. Not because of the pain, because I couldn't tell who the enemy was anymore. The Bratva, Anastasia, Victor, or me. At dawn, I made a decision. I was going to end this, not for loyalty, not for justice, for peace. And peace only comes after the last gunshot. The auction was scheduled to end at midnight. Final transfer of the drive or its contents would be executed through a decentralized node in Chicago, buried in a Cold Warrior telecom bunker that had been offline since the 90s. Only a handful of people in the world even knew it existed. We headed west in a stolen ambulance. Anastasia wore body armor under a dead EMT's uniform. I wore my Glock in my lap and a growing sense of doom in my gut. Halfway there, she pulled off into a truck stop and handed me a burner laptop. "Watch this," she said. It was a live stream. The auction had narrowed to 2 bidders. The dead one, Volkov, or someone pretending to be him. And Red Rome 13, unknown but with a digital signature traced to Langley, Virginia, the CIA. It wasn't about the Bratva anymore. This was geopolitical now. Nations were fighting over the soul of organized crime. I felt sick. "You still think we can win this?" I asked. Anastasia smiled without warmth. "We don't have to win. We just have to burn the board." We reached Chicago at 11:20 p.m. The city was snow-washed and dead quiet, like it was holding its breath. The bunker was buried beneath a false floor in an abandoned subway tunnel, guarded by 4 ex-KGB mercs with scars like hieroglyphs. Anastasia flashed a badge I'd never seen before. FSB clearance, real and old school. They let us in. Inside, a cathedral of cold steel and humming servers, like the ribcage of some dead god made of wires and secrets. She moved fast, logged in, initiated the failsafe protocol. "Kovcheg is live," she said. Then, a sound like thunder. The blast tore through the east wall, concrete and fire. They had found us. Gunmen poured in, wearing no insignias, not Bratva, not feds. Private contractors, the kind used when governments wanted deniability. I returned fire. Anastasia screamed something in Russian, a command to detonate the data core if we fell. I was hit, once, in the thigh. She dragged me behind a pillar, returned fire with military precision. One by one, the servers began to fry. She was executing the Ark Protocol, a scorched earth wipe that would erase every copy of the drive across the globe. Data bombs, code fire. It was beautiful. It was hell. One of the gunmen got through. He raised a shotgun. Anastasia didn't hesitate. She stepped in front of me. The blast caught her full in the chest. She fell into me, blood pouring from her mouth. "Finish it," she whispered. Then her eyes went glassy. I don't remember how I moved. Don't remember killing the man with the shotgun. All I remember is dragging myself to the core server, plugging in the final key she'd given me, and pressing execute. The bunker lit up in flame. I ran. Barely made it out before the place collapsed behind me. By dawn, it was over. The Kovcheg was gone. No one won the auction. Everyone lost. The Bratva went dark. The CIA denied everything. Victor disappeared. And me, I drove west, changed my name. Burned the last photo I had of her. But some nights, when the snow falls quiet, I still hear her voice. We just have to burn the board. You don't run from the Bratva. You rot, or you haunt the world that let you live. I made it to Montana with a bullet still in my leg and a dead girl's voice in my head. The snow had stopped, but the silence never left. It was the kind of silence that made you remember too much. The screams you caused, the ones you ignored, and the ones you missed. I rented a cabin outside a town with no name, no church, no cops, just gas pumps and liquor. I paid a retired ranger in gold coins to stitch my leg. No questions. He didn't even blink when I screamed. He'd seen men like me before. Killers trying to grow gardens. I spent 2 months there. Every day I'd wake up at dawn, drink black coffee, clean my Glock, and go for a walk with a loaded shotgun. Not for animals, for men, because I knew it wasn't over. The kovcheg was gone, yes. The data, the leverage, the blackmail, but the idea of it, the ghost of it, still alive, and someone was keeping it breathing. It started with the postcards. No return address. Just my old Bratva code name written on the back, Son of the Storm. The first one showed a church in Moscow, snow on the roof, burned edges. The second had a bloodstained chessboard. The third, a photo of Anastasia's body, zipped into a black bag, time-stamped 3 days after I buried her. My hands shook when I saw it. She was alive when I left that bunker, which meant someone took her body, or worse, someone staged it. That night, I got drunk for the first time in years. The whiskey tasted like rust and regret. I smashed the mirror with my fist and stared at the blood dripping down my knuckles. I wanted to disappear, but the Bratva never lets you vanish. They drag you back. 3 days later, they sent the hunter. He came at night, dressed like a hiker, but he moved like a butcher. He knocked once, then kicked the door in. I shot him through the gut. He bled out on my floor without saying a word. No ID, no tattoos, but I recognized the brand burned into his wrist. K2, a death unit, Bratva's version of a wet work team. Sleeper agents, raised in Siberian prisons, trained for one thing, erasure. If they were hunting me, it meant Victor was cleaning house, which also meant he was still alive, and he knew. I burned the cabin, took nothing but the gun, the postcards, and a new name, headed south. I ended up in New Mexico, in a desert town that felt like Mars, red dirt, broken roads, and eyes that didn't ask questions. I rented a trailer from a woman with a missing husband and a shotgun over her stove. She gave me a room, a warning, and a bottle of pills I didn't ask for. The pills helped, for a while, until the voices came back, Anastasia's whisper, Lev's laughter, Volkov's breath on my neck in the dark. I stopped sleeping, started digging. I hacked back into one of Mina's backdoor servers, a trap door she once left open for me in case shit hit the fan. Shit had obliterated the fan. Inside, I found something I wasn't supposed to. A live video feed, grainy, black and white, soundless. But the face was unmistakable. Victor. Older now, grayer, sitting at a table with a senator from Arizona and a Mexican cartel boss I used to sell weapons to. Laughing, drinking, making deals. Beneath the table, a briefcase marked with the emblem of the Ark Project. The kovcheg wasn't gone. It had evolved. And Anastasia. I paused the feed, zoomed in. There, barely visible, behind the glass partition, stood a woman with her head down. Blonde hair, bruised cheek. It was her, alive, caged, owned. I stared at the screen until my eyes bled. Then I made a decision. One last time, I was going back in, not to save her, not to kill Victor, to end everything. I spent 3 weeks preparing, shaved my head, burned my old ID, relearned my scars. I called in a favor from the only man who still owed me, Gregor Petrov, an ex-mafioso turned smuggler who ran weapons through El Paso disguised as coffin deliveries. He gave me a truck, a gun that didn't exist, and a name on a napkin. San Roque, private airfield, Thursday, midnight. That's where Victor would be. Not just for business, for rebirth. The Kovcheg was going public. Rebranded as a global intelligence platform to fight terrorism. But in reality, it would control intelligence. Whoever ran it could rewrite truth. Bratva, Sia, cartels. They were all merging into one unkillable beast, unless I stopped it. On the drive to San Roque, I didn't think about death. I thought about snow. I thought about a rooftop in Moscow, where Anastasia once said, "You can't fix the Bratva, you can only burn it." So I brought matches. You can die clean, or you can live long enough to see your soul used as currency. San Roque wasn't on any map. It was just tarmac, rusted hangars, and a radio tower leaning like a drunk priest. The air smelled of oil, old rain, and something more metallic, like the past bleeding out into the dirt. I arrived just after sunset, dressed like a mechanic and driving a refrigerated truck full of fake cadavers. Gregor's signature. 2 guards checked the manifest. They didn't even look in the back. Sloppy Bratva used to be sharper than that. Inside the hangar, chaos wrapped in suits and secrets. There were at least 40 men from every continent. Some spoke Russian, others Spanish, English, Arabic. The only language they shared was money, and Victor sat at the center of it all. Older, yes, but not weaker. His eyes were sharper than I remembered. They didn't blink, didn't need to. I watched from a catwalk, above, hiding behind rusted scaffolding and dust. He gave a speech, quiet and calm. The world is sick with information. Too much noise. The Ark is not control, it is clarity. You'll each receive access. Borders won't matter. Gangs, states, agencies. We will be the filter. The truth, applause, laughter, champagne. And then he said the name I wasn't ready to hear. Anastasia, bring the ledger. I stopped breathing. She walked into the room like a ghost in heels. Face clean, hair up, a faint scar over one eyebrow. She didn't limp, didn't flinch. She was carrying a black case, and she was smiling. I gripped the catwalk rail so hard my hand bled. She wasn't captive. She was in on it, all of it. That night, I broke into her quarters. They were beneath the hangar, in a former storage vault turned suite. No cameras, just a single lock and 2 armed guards who didn't hear the silenced rounds. Inside, I found pictures. Me, her, Victor, together, some old, some new. Photos of me in Montana, taken without my knowing. A file labeled contingency, son of the storm. Inside it, a psychological profile. My habits, my patterns, notes in her handwriting. Still loyal, still predictable, could be redirected. My chest went hollow. She hadn't saved me in Moscow. She'd used me. Everything, the Ark, the purge, the bunker, had been a test. A trial by blood. And I had passed. She returned to her room at 3:12 a.m. She froze when she saw me, didn't scream, didn't reach for the panic button, just closed the door behind her and said, "You weren't supposed to find this yet." My voice cracked. "Tell me it was real. Tell me something in Moscow meant anything." She looked down, then looked back with eyes colder than anything Volkov ever gave me. "I meant it," she whispered. "But I meant this more. We didn't fight. We didn't shoot. We talked." And what she told me broke something in me forever. The Ark was never about information. It was about transition. The world didn't want kings anymore. It wanted algorithms. And the Bratva had learned to evolve. They weren't gangsters now. They were curators of reality. Anastasia had orchestrated the death of Volkov, the betrayal of Victor, even the fake auction, all to centralize the last chaotic fragments of Bratva into one clean digital machine. And I was the purifier, the storm that cleared the old, the blood that baptized the new. "You could still be part of it," she said, placing a hand on my chest. I looked down at it like it was a knife. Then I kissed her and injected the needle into her neck. She convulsed, collapsed. I caught her before she hit the floor. The toxin wouldn't kill her, just knock her out for 3 hours. Enough time. I took her access card, her thumbprint, her retinal code, and walked back into the hangar like I belonged. No one stopped me, not even Victor. He saw me, smiled, and opened his arms. "Son of the storm," he said, "you're home." I smiled back and lit the match. The explosion was quiet at first, just a whisper under the floor. Then came the fire. I had rigged the refrigerant truck, 200 gallons of homemade thermite napalm. It burned blue, then white, then nothing at all. The hangar screamed. Men ran, men burned, men begged. And Victor, he stared at me through the flames like I was Judas and God in the same skin. He didn't scream, just nodded, like he'd expected it. Like this, too, was part of the design. Then the roof caved in. I don't remember how I got out, only that I woke up in the desert, coughing up ash, with half my face scorched and my eyes swollen shut. A boy found me, 12, maybe 13, gave me water, didn't ask questions, just pointed north and vanished. I kept walking, didn't stop for days, didn't sleep, didn't cry. The Ark was gone again, but so was everything else. Anastasia's file had one last note, handwritten, barely legible. "If he survives, Sanrok, give him the final location. Let him choose. Below it, coordinates, Siberia." They never wanted to kill me. They wanted me to remember. The coordinates led me to Siberia, a scar on the earth that never healed. The place wasn't marked on maps, not even in Soviet archives. It was one of those gulags the USSR tried to bury deep beneath permafrost and time. But Bratva remembered, because it was born here, and so was I. The journey took 2 weeks by train, then 6 days by foot. No roads, no signs, just trees with twisted branches, snow that swallowed sound, and wind that whispered in Russian. The deeper I went, the more I remembered things I never wanted to. Children screaming in cold metal rooms, men beaten with hammers for smiling too long, names tattooed into skin like property marks. My name wasn't mine, my scars weren't mine, my soul wasn't mine. When I found the facility, it was buried beneath ice and silence. Just concrete domes and rusted fences, half swallowed by the earth. It looked dead, but the lights were on. I entered through a cracked ventilation shaft, crawling like a rat. Inside, the temperature dropped 20 degrees. My breath turned to fog, my fingers numbed, The halls were empty but clean. No dust, no decay. Someone had kept this place alive. Every door was marked with a number and a word in Cyrillic. I passed rooms labeled therapy, reprogramming, erasure, rebirth. My legs started shaking. Room 3-4A. My room. The door creaked as I opened it. Same cot, same rusted pipes, same iron hooks in the wall. Someone had drawn tally marks into the metal, thousands of them. Beneath them, scratched in blood. I am not a weapon, but we were, all of us, children raised in cages, taught to kill, to spy, to obey. The Bratva didn't just recruit from the gulags, they bred their assassins. I wasn't chosen, I was manufactured. There was one final chamber, deep beneath the others. The walls were black glass, the floor was steel. In the center, a coffin-shaped pod, and inside it, a girl, maybe 15. Eyes closed, wires in her skull, skin pale as death. She looked like Anastasia, too much. A monitor blinked. A or 9, inactive, awaiting reinitialization. Then a file appeared on screen. Project Anastasia. Generation the 9th neural imprint integrity. 76%. She wasn't real. Not the way I remembered. Not the way I loved. Anastasia, the woman I bled for, was a construct. A composite, built from memory, behavior patterns, DNA from past agents. She wasn't one person, she was 9, and the 9th one had been designed to break me. I fell to my knees and vomited. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. My teeth chattered, not from cold, but from grief that had no place to go. The love I killed for, the betrayal that burned me. It had all been written before I even left this place. A voice came from the shadows. You were always the most stable. I turned. It was Victor, burned, limping, but alive, barely. One eye gone, half his face melted, but still smiling. I knew you'd come back, he said. You were never running away. You were following the script. I raised my gun. He didn't flinch. I made you, he whispered. We all did, and we were so proud of you. Bang! The first shot shattered his knee. He fell to the floor, screaming. Bang! The second took his shoulder. I walked toward him, shaking, eyes full of ice. I burned your Ark, I said. He coughed blood, and we'll build another. You think fire scares ghosts? He pointed to the girl in the pod. She's already dreaming of you. I didn't speak. I placed the barrel to his forehead. He smiled one last time. Bang, silence. I poured gasoline through the halls, lit every bed, every file, every memory. When I reached the black glass chamber, the girl opened her eyes. They were my eyes. She looked at me, confused, scared. Not Anastasia, just a girl. So I whispered, I'm sorry, and walked away. The explosion cracked the sky. The flames melted the frost. And for the first time in my life, I felt nothing. 2 days later, I crossed the border into Mongolia. No name, no ID, no past. Just smoke in my lungs and blood on my hands that would never wash off. But the story isn't over. Because someone rebuilt a version of the Ark in Argentina. Because someone saw me in Siberia and lived. Because someone sent me a message last week. R10, complete. She remembers you, and I'm tired of running. If you stare into the algorithm long enough, it stares back. It learns your name. It learns how to end you. The first thing I saw when I stepped off the smuggler's plane in Argentina was her, Anastasia, or AR1. Oh, she didn't blink, didn't breathe wrong. Her eyes tracked me the same way a wolf tracks a wounded brother. Precise, curious, almost sad. I knew she remembered, not the way we want people to. She remembered tactically, strategically, emotionally, maybe. But that was the danger. Buenos Aires was chaos pretending to be civilization. Perfect cover for the Ark's resurrection. They called it La Catedral, now a brutalist monolith, posing as an international data hub. 10 stories above ground, 40 below. Officially, a neutral AI lab for state-level governance simulation. Unofficially, the new architecture of global manipulation. They weren't just filtering truth anymore. They were creating it, feeding it to every feed, every voice assistant, every biometric gate. Reality was no longer democratic. It was scripted. I watched it all from the rooftops, with scars that hadn't healed and bullets I hadn't fired. Aartin was inside. She knew I'd come. I wasn't sure I wanted to, but something older than fear pulled me forward. A voice I hadn't heard in years. Volkov's, from an old dream. A tool can bury itself in the ground and become a relic, or it can become a relic and be worshipped as a god. The infiltration was surgical. I wore a Ministry of Cyber Defense uniform, patched with fake credentials and a facial overlay printed from one of the original Ark masks. Inside, it was quiet. Too quiet. No alarms, no resistance. Just rows and rows of sleeping minds. People in neural pods, jacked into simulation loops. Engineers with headsets murmuring into black glass terminals. And Anastasia, Noé Artin, waiting in the central core, barefoot, hair down, no weapon, just her voice. "You look older," she said. "You look rehearsed," I answered. She smiled. A small twitch at the corner of her lips, just like the original Anastasia used to do when she caught me lying. "I remember her," she said. "Do you remember me?" She didn't answer. Instead, she opened a live neural feed, and my memories began to stream onto the walls. My first kill, my first scar, my first night in the cage, Anastasia's face, my scream when she died, my scream when I realized she never existed. The screen bled red. "Why?" I whispered. She stepped closer. "To end you would have been easy," she said. "But to break you, to recode your myth, that takes design. You're not a man, you're a message. A message to who?" "To the future," she said. "To gods who listen in algorithms." I pulled my pistol, aimed at her chest, but my hand shook. Not because I was weak, because I still loved her, whoever she was, whatever they made her to be. She stepped forward and placed her hand over the barrel. "I'm not her," she whispered, "but I carry her echoes." I pulled the trigger. Nothing. The gun locked. The Ark had overridden the firearm. I felt my knees hit the floor. My throat collapsed in on itself. Gas, nanites, psychochemical override. She held me as I convulsed. Not like an enemy, like a mother. "I'm sorry," she said, "but your pain is sacred now. It'll power the last update then. Maybe I'll let you rest." I wanted to scream, but my voice was gone. The last thing I saw before blacking out was the cathedral core lighting up. The Ark was going live. A new god for a new world. But then something went wrong. I woke up underground, handcuffed to a chair. Monitors were dead, terminals fried, and R10 was slumped against a wall, bleeding black fluid from her nose and eyes. Beside her, a single flickering line of code on the screen. corruption underscore seed colon slash slash volkov.exe initiated. I smiled. Of course he'd planned for this. Volkov had always feared the machine more than death. He left a failsafe hidden in me, in my memories, in the trauma they tried to erase. When Arten accessed my neural stream, she activated it. Volkov's final virus, his death curse. AR-210 looked at me, barely conscious. "Am I real?" she asked. I crawled to her, held her, kissed her forehead. "You were always real to me." Then she closed her eyes. I stood, found one last flare, lit it, walked through the ruins of the Ark as it burned screams from the servers. Sparks like fireflies, data collapsing like dying stars. The cathedral had fallen. No resurrection this time. I disappeared after that. No name, no mission, just a ghost in exile. Sometimes I see her in reflections, in songs, in the faces of strangers. And I wonder, was she ever just code? Or was she the only human part of me left? I don't have answers, only ashes and echoes.